So as you can see, the progress of our villa so far. We've erected pretty much all of the columns, or the steel rebars for the columns. And as you can see in our web of rebars, so in my last video, I probably talked about this, where I basically showed the initial first layer with that 50 mm thickness, or sorry, cover for concrete, right? So on top of that, what we have are chairs, as you can see over here. So these are chairs, right? These are basically the fabricated rebars on which the second web of steel and reinforcement sits, right? So on on these chairs, you have the second layer as per drawing, and in specific places in our construction, we have another third layer as per the specifications of the structural drawing. Now, each layer basically has its own reason. So for example, as you can see over here, we have this third layer that starts from over here and goes all the way to the end, where it basically touches the beam, the boundary beam, and the beam doesn't extend all the way, right? It extends to a certain distance, after which you don't have that beam, and that's according to specifications as well, right? This is basically when the structural engineer sits down and basically analyzes where you have to have the beam, where you have to have the third layer, so on and so forth. Now, I can give you some reasons as to why you may have a third, for example, layer, or specifically a steel box in this location here. Now, this probably could be just because of that shear column, right? And the shear wall or shear column is the point, is that specific point in your structure, which is the most fortified in that sense. So for example, God forbid, if there was an earthquake, right? If you have that building, right, and if it jolts back and forth, essentially it would be the shear column or shear wall that would basically be withholding that load, right? If you don't have that, then essentially your whole entire building collapses, right? God forbid, obviously that's the worst case scenario, but that's the intent. So that's the point of, you know, showing you all of these specific variations of these specific steel structural enhancements in our substructure. And then on top of this, we'll have the pouring of the concrete, right? And then you have the tie beam level, and then you have more concrete that's poured over, and then you have the floor. And we'll get to that in our future videos, obviously. And so just to let you know, some of the ways this is done. So for example, as you can see over there, right, that's the boundary wall. So this wasn't actually done right there. So we essentially, what the steel fabricators did was that they made the steel structure, right? They made it over here in the side, right? And then they added these steel columns, vertical columns, to the box, right? Yes, yeah. Sorry. So they bring the steel box, they put it over here, right? And then they take the steel column and then they add it to the box, and then they just flip it over, and then you have the steel box standing. So this is how it's essentially done. As you can see, we have some nice boundaries there, and our villa is coming in shape beautifully. So yes, mashallah, the construction is going very smooth so far.